If your life is changing, but your relationships don't feel the same, this episode is for you. Choosing yourself is the most profitable decision you'll ever make. Welcome to the podcast. This is Selfishly Made, and I'm your host, Melissa. First off, if you have been tuning into the episodes, the clips on social media, or even just binging the whole episode here on YouTube or listening on Spotify, thank you so freaking much because I appreciate everyone's support with this podcast and as I build this media platform and your engagement, your comments, your likes, your follows really does help this reach all of the other girlies that need a little bit of selfishly made in their lives. Today is a day off of work and I thought it would be good to just sit down and have a conversation with y'all about growth. And let me tell you, this is definitely a staple for the podcast. It's definitely nothing new that we've been talking about. But what brings me the most joy, truly and honestly, is seeing the girlies expand, get the bag, build such amazing, beautiful lives, and time again choose themselves. And so I celebrated Valentine's Day. And one thing about the gays is that Valentine's Day is just literally another day. And it was such a beautiful day with her. We enjoyed it so much. And it got me really thinking about how far I've come in my relationships, whether it's me dating someone or even a friendship. Now, here's the thing. We talk about leaving jobs, we talk about upgrading our habits, but we don't talk a lot about what it does to your friendships. So, what growth and evolution does to your friendships or even your dating life. And I've learned over the last 5 years that people evolve at different speeds and that's not a character flaw, it's just reality, honestly. So if you felt distance from certain friends, if you notice that dating feels a little bit different as you've grown, or even if you feel slightly out of place in rooms you used to fit in, let's talk. So, in this episode, I want to get straight to the point. I really want to dig into what happens to your friendships when you start changing, when you start evolving, why some people tend to grow with you and some don't, and then also why dating feels different when your standards are higher. And then how to handle the guilt that comes with outgrowing people. Because we also talk a lot about how we outgrow complacency, how we outgrow things in our lives, right? So this is going to be for my girlies who feel like they're changing and the relationships maybe aren't keeping up, the ones that feel a shift but don't want to sound dramatic, overly dramatic, the ones who are maybe dating differently because they know what they want now. And then if that's you, honey, come on, bring your notepad, grab your matcha or a coffee or tea because this conversation is for you. Okay, ladies, I don't think we talk enough about how growth changes who fits into our lives. And it's not just about making more money or getting promoted, but the true emotional growth, the habit changing when you raise your standards, kind of growth where what you're willing to tolerate kind of starts to shift. And the one thing that has absolutely changed for me over the last 5 years, it's my standards for literally everything. And so as you start upgrading your life, this looks like protecting your time more. Like I am a stickler for what I spend my time on and what takes up my time. This can look like going to therapy, waking up earlier, budgeting your money better. Anybody who knows me and my partner who really knows me knows that I am a stickler for a budget, knowing what's coming in and out money wise and financial goals. And then also just working on your goals. So your relationships can start to feel different, even if no one had like a big fight or falling out. And here's what I realized: growth itself isn't good or bad, but it definitely does show who can grow with you. Not everyone grows at the same speed, and that's a true fact. And some people are going to sit here and push themselves when life gets uncomfortable, and some may prefer to stay where they're at because it feels safe. And nothing is wrong with that. And neither person is wrong for doing so. But the tension shows up when you start moving faster and then they don't. Okay. The tension, the uncomfortable feeling really starts to kind of creep in. And you might notice that conversations feel repetitive, or the goals don't match anymore. Or you're excited about investing in health or building something new while they're stuck in the same cycle. So instead of saying, maybe we're just in different seasons, we feel guilty. And I know for sure that I did. We think we're being overly dramatic or ungrateful, but it's not the growth itself that pushes two people apart. It actually shows how far friendships and relationships can stretch, right? And look, ladies, you're not losing friends because you're changing. You're feeling the gap because you're growing at a different pace, and that's okay. And when the pace changes, compatibility gets tested. Even when the greatest of friendships are tested, I promise you have yet to discover, or maybe you're discovering now, a friendship that's everything that you have ever wanted and more. And I have definitely experienced that over I want to say the last 3 years, right? I have some such amazing women in my life where we talk, we go deep, we expand each other's thinking, we talk about business, we talk about therapy, like all the things that I look for in a friendship. And I saw something the other day on TikTok that kind of made it click a little bit more. So there was a girl on TikTok, and she was saying that she didn't want to attract certain friends that she couldn't call at 10 a.m. in the morning to go on a walk and get matcha and then go shopping after, right? And at first I thought, it's like, okay, like that might be a bit extreme. But when I really thought about it, I was just like, okay, like it wasn't about the shopping at all. It was about the lifestyle that this person had, right? And so if you've built a life where, say, you work remotely, you control your schedule and your time, and you value slow mornings, of course you're going to want friends that can join you in that, right? So if your friends can't relate to your flexibility, then they start to make comments about your schedule, or they low key resent you that you have options that they don't. That's not you being selfish. That's just pure misalignment in the relationships and friendships that you choose to have, right? So, for example, if you're saving and investing every single dollar and talking about long term goals, but your friend or your friend group only wants to spend money and avoid money conversations, that's a difference, right? If you care 100% about health and discipline and getting right and going to the gym, and they call you boring for not staying out at night, that is a difference, okay? So, lifestyle definitely does matter, to me at least. And just because you've known somebody since college doesn't mean that they automatically fit the woman that you're becoming now. I had to sit with this for a while, like a good while, because it's so true that history with somebody does not guarantee alignment in a relationship. And it's just something that you can't force just because you share memories and you've done everything together for a very long time. Some people are just meant for a season and not your next level. And that doesn't mean that they won't still be in your life and support you. It's just the friendship has evolved. I know at first I saw this as, a bad thing and as something that needed to be fixed, and that, oh, it was all my fault. But it actually never needed to be fixed at all. We just evolved outside of each other, and that is 100% completely okay. There is a deeper shift, however, and usually it isn't about schedules or about going getting matcha at 10 o'clock in the morning. It's more emotional and deeper than that. And so that takes me into the emotional growth of things and emotional upgrades and how they change dynamics, right? So, emotional growth changes the role you play in your friendships and in your relationships. Your tolerance is going to get tighter, and some friendships and even long-term relationships were built on a version of you from the past and not who you are now. And so maybe you were the one that always listened, that you were the always the one to pick up the phone when they called, that you were there therapist, never complained, said yes to everything, and kept the peace. And that version of you made that friendship easy, but that's not the version that you are now. So as you grow emotionally, you stop over explaining yourself. You stop answering every single call. You stop being everyone's unpaid therapist, and you stop laughing off things that actually bother you. Like, you just become unfuckwithable. I would just say it like that. And when you change those patterns, girl, the dynamics are definitely going to shift. And let me tell you, that feels so uncomfortable when it happens because, again, when this happened to me, I thought it was all my fault. I was like, well, what the hell am I doing wrong? I'm not a good friend, yada, yada, yada. But that is not necessarily the truth. People grow at different speeds, okay? And some friends are going to grow with you, and some will just stay the same. Like, they might feel left behind, and some are going to cheer you on. And that is completely normal, especially when we're not young and in our, well, I want to say young, but when we're not in our early 20s and we're hitting 30s, mid 30s, and we take our time and the things that make us happy so much more serious at this point in our lives. But here's the real question, okay? Are you willing to make yourself smaller to keep everyone happy? It's as simple as that. A lot of high achieving women do this without actually realizing it. We don't talk about the raise because we don't want to seem like we're bragging about the money that we make. We start to downplay our goals because we don't want to make it seem like we are too much, and we act less disciplined than we are so we don't make anybody feel secure. And over time, girl, that's going to build some true resentment. You're not outgrowing people because you think you're better. You're outgrowing them because certain dynamics change and you refuse to go back to the person that you were. Okay. So look, sometimes the friendship or relationship didn't fall apart. The version of you it was built on actually changed. I wrote down sort of a reflective question. So if you have a journal or the notes app on your phone or wherever you write things down, sticky note, I want you to really ask yourself and sit with this question. So the question is, where am I making myself smaller to keep a relationship comfortable? And if I stop shrinking, who would naturally drift away from me? So ask yourself that and sit with yourself. Before we move on, there's also a second part to this question. So, where are you holding back parts of yourself just to maintain a connection? And if you actually stop doing that, who would still fit? And that's not you being mean, right? If you're answering this question and you say, like, so and so is going to drift away, or this friendship, relationship may not look the same anymore, that's not you being mean. That's just you being honest about the compatibility that you have with other people. Okay, so let's get into the love talk. Okay, we're gonna talk about love. We're gonna talk about a little dating, right? So, as you grow financially independent, you're emotionally steady, and you are clear about your goals, you are on it with your time. Of course, your standards when it comes to dating are naturally gonna change. And you don't even have to force it. It just happens, okay? So when you're the high achieving woman that can pay her own bills, that you can manage your nervous system, you've built your own life, and you stop dating from a place of need, it slowly becomes that you're not looking for anybody to save you. You don't need to be saved. You don't need nobody to fix you. You definitely don't need to be fixing anybody else. And it becomes that you stop dating for potential. You stop dating just because there's a chemistry with somebody, and you stop dating for attention because you're bored on a Friday night. When you evolve and when you increase your standards, you start dating for compatibility, for stability, for your shared values with another person, for someone who is actually headed somewhere and not just talking about it, right? And yes, girl, that is going to narrow the playing field a lot. There are fewer people who are going to fit into your standards, okay? And I like to say I am the luckiest girl alive to have my partner who is literally everything that I have asked God for and have prayed for years, okay? And at first, when I narrowed who I give my time to, it felt scary AF, okay? But narrow is powerful because now you're not entertaining anyone who doesn't align with the life you're building. So, for example, if you're focused on investing, building your career, protecting your energy, you're probably not going to feel excited about somebody who is living paycheck to paycheck or avoids hard conversations and thinks that planning to the future is doing the most. That doesn't make them a bad person at all. It just means that you're not in the same place and they are maybe not your person. And this is usually the moment where we start saying, well, why does dating feel so difficult or different now? And dating feels different because you're different. Point blank, period. When you are a high achieving woman who has built her own stability, you're no longer dating from survival mode. You don't need the financial rescue. You definitely don't need somebody to validate your worth, and you don't need someone to just pass time with. So the question shifts, right? It's no longer, do they like me? Are they interested? It becomes more, do they actually fit into my life? And do I fit into theirs? That is the massive shift. And we don't want any relationship to drag women down. Absolutely not. When you're younger or less settled, it's definitely easier to get caught up in the chemistry, the late night texts, the butterflies, the excitement of someone choosing you. But baby girl, I'm gonna need you to choose yourself first before you choose anyone, okay? But when you've built a solid life, when you start asking different questions, clock it, okay? Do they respect my time? Do they have direction? Do they follow through on the things that they actually say they're going to do? And do they live in a way that makes sense for the future that I want? Period. A lot of people are going to admire ambitious women. They love the idea of dating someone that's driven, independent, and has her shit together. But fewer people can actually match that depth, that discipline, and that direction long term. And that's okay. It just means that you stop making excuses for inconsistency and you stop convincing yourself that it'll get better when the signs are already clear. It's not about being perfect, it's just about alignment. Okay. So just like friendships require capacity, love requires capacity too. Not just feelings, not just the initial ongoing attraction, but the actual capacity to hold that relationship. And I really want to focus on the three types of capacity. The first one is emotional capacity. And emotional capacity can mean that they can communicate when something's wrong instead of just completely shutting down, that they can apologize without it turning into a big fight, that they can handle stress without taking it out on you. The second one is lifestyle capacity. And that means that your visions make sense together. Okay. So if you want to travel and grow and maybe move cities and they are deeply rooted and unwilling to expand, that actually does matter. Okay. If you value structure and discipline and they value more spontaneity with no direction, that does matter. However, I will say that opposites can attract for sure. And then the third one is growth capacity. And this just means that they are also evolving too. So they don't have to be at your exact level, but they definitely should be moving, learning, improving, and actually trying. Because if you are constantly stretching and challenging yourself, but they're staying the same, that gap will start to show up in the relationship. Here's the slightly uncomfortable question I want you to sit with on this one. Are you lowering your standards just to feel chosen, or are you raising them to feel aligned? Okay, so pause on that and write it down in your notebook or your journal. Sometimes we want a partnership, but we tolerate misalignment because we just don't want to be alone, okay? But alignment is what creates peace, and misalignment creates constant stress in your life, and we don't need that. Dating doesn't get harder when you level up, it just gets more specific, and specific can feel lonely before it feels more powerful and aligned. It's not that there's no options, it's that you stop entertaining options that just don't fit for you. So, before we wrap up this episode, we talked about a lot on friendships and relationships, but I really want you to understand two things, okay? As you grow, your relationships will get tested, point blank, period. That's normal. And the goal isn't to leave everyone behind, the goal is to just stop leaving yourself behind. And history with somebody is not going to guarantee alignment. Chemistry doesn't guarantee compatibility. And what matters is whether this person fits in the life that you're building and can you evolve with each other. TLDR, ladies, you are not responsible for staying the same just because other people are comfortable there. Not everyone is meant to meet the version of you that you're becoming. Some people loved who you were. The right people will love you for who you're growing into. And that's not loss, that's clarity. Ladies, I've been running my mouth, but I love to hear from you. Please do leave a 5-star review. That helps this podcast reach other selfishly made girlies. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or Spotify, and make sure you're subscribed to the Selfishly Made Substack for more selfish conversations. Until next time, bye.